The idea of buying a brand new home sounds wonderful, but is it really a good idea? I encourage you to watch till the end of the video to make that decision for yourself. So kick your shoes off. Stay a while. Salutations, good people. I'm Josh. And in today's video, we're talking everything new construction. And just to be clear, we're not going to really touch on custom-built homes. That's you going and finding land and then finding a builder to build a new home. We're just sticking with newly built homes that are ready to move into. Now, the information I provide in this video is based on my experience being a realtor here in the upstate of South Carolina. And I'd like to do a bit of a pros and cons style video for you today. Now, most newly constructed homes that you're going to find here in the upstate are going to be in a new development community. And within these communities, there's normally HOA fees. Now, don't let that scare you too much, because in South Carolina, we are typically a lot lower than other states when it comes to HOA fees, at least here in the upstate region. After hearing multiple families that have moved from out of state to South Carolina, I typically get the same response. And that's the fact that our HOA fees are wildly lower than the state that they're coming from. Another positive thing about buying a new build home, and this is a pretty obvious one, but it's new. The home inspection process isn't going to be near as rigorous compared to buying a pre-existing home, compared to buying a previously lived-in home. And yes, even on new construction homes, I highly recommend having a home inspection done. And with buying a brand new home from a, let's just say, a bigger name builder that has done this many times over, you can rest assured that there is a system already set in place, so you don't have to really worry about too many major hiccups. The next positive thing I can say about new build homes is that you are covered by warranties. While the warranties last on average about a year, depending on the builder that you go with, you can count on things like nail pops and cracks in drywall due to just the settling of the home being covered around that year mark. These are things you're just not going to get buying a previously owned home. With the process of working with a builder, you'll almost always have a chance to walk the home with the builder and point out any imperfections. And almost all of the time, they will take care of it. This could be things like a chip of wood out of the door frame, or a little imperfection with the paint, perhaps even something that's not working quite right. Now, sometimes the industry has a phrase for these type of walks, and they call it a blue tape walk. It's simply where you and the builder both take a roll of blue tape and you put little pieces of tape on any imperfections that you see. That gives the workers an idea on what to fix when they come back in. But that's not always the exact process. Some builders like to do things a little different. And just as a side note, if we're working together and we find a newly constructed home that's not in a big development or a tract home development, as it's been called before, and the home has been constructed by a more local builder, you'll likely find homes with a little more character that might make it stand out more than a new development home. Now, going back to the new build home in communities, most communities have really wonderful amenities like pools and playgrounds. And if you're looking for a sense of community, you'll more than likely find it within one of these types of developments. Now, quite possibly the coolest thing about looking in a new development is that you'll find that most communities have many options when it comes to different floor plans. And in this situation, it's a little more like shopping, where you walk in and you sit down with an on-site sales associate or an on-site agent that specializes in the homes and the floor plans and how the entire process works. I've worked with a lot of great builders and a lot of great sales associates and agents at these types of communities, and I can't recall one situation where the associate or agent wasn't extremely helpful in the entire process. I will recommend, however, that you lock in your own personal real estate agent. I mean, of course, I'm going to recommend that on this channel, right? But I recommend this even while visiting these types of sites that already has an agent there to help you. One of the biggest reasons is these sales associates don't know you're looking for them. And it's also not an on-site agent's job to know about the surrounding communities that are their competitors. Now, whether it's myself or someone else helping you, we usually have a good current knowledge of the whereabouts of existing communities that are probably going to suit your needs. Another reason you might want to bring along your own personal agent is that while most on-site agents are wonderful to work with, having an agent who already knows what you're looking for and usually more details about your specific situation, having someone sitting with you and walking through this process with you that's specifically designated to you and is in your corner can give you a huge peace of mind. Also, having a realtor represent you gives you the luxury of having a professional look over certain documents and things of that nature to make sure everything is in order before you go signing your life away. Now, to piggyback on picking out your very own floor plan, if you find a community that's in the early stages or at the beginning of one of their phases, you may just get to pick out what lot you want to have your home built on. Usually you put a little money down to reserve the lot and then you go from there. In other words, first come, first served. And if I haven't sold you on snagging a realtor just yet, let me drive it home for you. We're free. That's right. The builder or seller pays us. Nothing comes out of your pocket. Now, this isn't a 100% exhaustive list of positives, but I feel like I touched on the higher points. Now let's talk about some not so great things about buying a new build home. One of the biggest and most frustrating things that you might encounter is that if it's not built yet and you have a tight schedule, delays in construction can happen, and nobody likes that. It makes scheduling the move from your old home to your new home a bit of a nightmare sometimes. Now, these delays could be due to weather or a shortage of supplies when building the home. I personally haven't seen this as a big issue, but it does happen. Now, probably the biggest negative that I've heard with my own ears from many people, and I'm sure you've heard this phrase before, is tied to the often used phrase of cookie cutter. While these builders are selling so many houses within a short period of time, the character of some of these homes, and not all of them, there's some really, really awesome, super unique, characteristically sound properties out there and builders that make sure they separate themselves from the others. I'm looking at you, Toll Brothers. But when it comes to characters, some of these homes can suffer and look similar, sometimes very similar. Now, if you don't mind looking a little like your neighbor, you might mind being so close to them. Sometimes, and again, not always, you can find yourself extremely close to your neighbors. While South Carolina is a very popular choice for folks to move to nowadays, the builders are doing their best to accommodate, so they are putting as many houses together as they possibly can. Now, another somewhat negative aspect, this really isn't a huge deal, but folks sometimes can suffer from decision fatigue. If you don't have a specific floor plan or criteria in mind, all of the options that you have in front of you spread out over all of the communities can get a little overwhelming sometimes, and everything starts to look the same. And what many folks might consider to be the absolute biggest con on today's list is the price between a previously lived-in home and a new construction build. Now, I'm sure this isn't a surprise to you. New cars cost more than used cars. Crazy, right? However, purchasing one of these new build homes, whether it's in a newly developed community or it's somewhere out by itself in an already established neighborhood, or potentially sitting on 10 acres of land, the warranties and the luxuries that you get with these new build homes and just the overall assistance that you get from the builder themselves can be darn near priceless. Now, if there's anything I can do to help you find one of these new homes in the upstate of South Carolina, my information will be right here. I've been Josh Oglesby with Real Broker LLC and Upstate SC Living, reminding you to work hard, be kind, and do enjoy yourselves.